The alarm rang through the crystal halls of the Galactic Council Station. It was a sound nobody had heard in 3,000 years. Ambassador Velthar looked at the screen with all 6 of his eyes opened wide. He could not believe what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he said quietly. His voice shook a little. "The quarantine zone has been broken." All around him, other aliens started to panic. Some screamed. Some released strange smells that showed they were scared. Others just froze in place, too frightened to move. There were representatives from 47 different alien worlds in the room, and all of them looked terrified. High Counselor Miradan raised her glowing hand. She was made of pure energy contained in a special shell. When she lifted her hand, everyone slowly became quiet. She had been the leader for 700 years and everyone respected her. "Check the readings again," she ordered. Her voice was calm but firm. "Make sure this is real." The station's computer showed a map of the galaxy. There was a red area on the outer edge that had been marked as forbidden for thousands of years. Now a small blue dot was moving away from that red zone. It was moving steadily into open space. "Confirmed, High Counselor," the computer said. "A ship has crossed the quarantine boundary. It came from Sector 774. That sector was previously known as the Sol System." The room became completely silent. Everyone knew what that meant. "The humans," someone whispered. The word spread through the chamber like a wave. Humans, the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Liberty. He had no idea that his ship had just caused a crisis across the entire galaxy. He was 53 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been chosen for this exploration mission because he was calm and experienced. There were 42 crew members on the Liberty, and they had been traveling through space for 6 months. "Captain, I am picking up strange readings ahead," said Lieutenant Amy Chen. She was young and smart, working at the sensor station. "There are multiple energy signatures. They look artificial." Jake leaned forward in his chair. The blue light from the screen reflected on his face. "Can you identify them, Amy?" "No, sir. These energy patterns are not in our database. Whatever made them, it is not human technology." The crew looked at each other. They had trained for first contact with aliens many times, but now that it might actually happen, everyone felt nervous and excited. "Lisa, send out a standard greeting message on all frequencies," Jake said. "Let us introduce ourselves properly." Lieutenant Lisa Grant nodded. She was the communications officer. She began sending the message. "This is the human exploration vessel Liberty, representing the nations of Earth. We come in peace and seek dialogue with any intelligent species receiving this message." For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the view screen suddenly filled with bright light. Dozens of massive ships appeared around them. The Liberty was surrounded in a perfect sphere. Each alien vessel was huge, much bigger than the human ship. Their designs were strange but beautiful. They seemed to bend space itself around them. "Go to battle stations," Jake said quietly. His military training took over. Before the crew could react, a golden beam of light wrapped around the Liberty. The ship was locked in place. The engines tried to break free but could not move. "Captain, we are being contacted," Lisa reported. Her voice was tight with tension. "Multiple sources are calling us at once." "Put it through." The view screen showed dozens of different alien faces. There were insect-like creatures, beings made of crystal, and others that seemed to exist partly outside normal space. But the central figure caught everyone's attention. It looked almost human but had skin that shimmered like pearl. "Humans of the quarantine zone," the being spoke. Its voice had strange harmonics. "You have broken ancient law. Your species was sealed inside your system for the protection of the galaxy. What right do you have to enter civilized space?" Jake stood up slowly and straightened his uniform. Whatever he said next would be very important. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We did not know we were quarantined. We are explorers seeking knowledge and peaceful contact. Perhaps you could explain these ancient laws." The alien's face was hard to read, but the room felt colder. "Your ignorance may be real," the being said, "but it changes nothing. You are human. Your species is dangerous beyond measure. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors nearly destroyed our civilization. The quarantine was created to protect the galaxy from your kind. You should never have been allowed to leave your star system." Back on the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Velthar opened the restricted archives. These were files that very few beings had permission to see. The historical records painted a terrifying picture of humanity's past. 3,000 years ago, humans had appeared in the galaxy. They were primitive, barely past their atomic age. But they had something that made them uniquely dangerous. They refused to accept defeat no matter what happened. The Velkarn Empire had made first contact. They tried to claim Earth and its resources. What happened next was unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen. Humans did not have better technology. They did not have huge fleets or ancient knowledge. What they had was the ability to adapt quickly and the desperation to survive. Within 10 years, humans had stolen Velkarn technology and made their own weapons. Within 20 years, they had formed alliances with rebels across the Empire. Within 30 years, the Velkarn Empire had collapsed. It had stood for 10,000 years, but humans had brought it down. But humans did not stop there. They had tasted the stars and wanted more. War after war followed, not because humans were evil, but because they refused to let anyone control them. Every attempt at peace talks failed when it included human submission. Every attempt to conquer them resulted in victories that cost more than they were worth. Finally, the Galactic Council made a desperate decision. Using technology that cost 3 civilizations all their money, they created a barrier around the Sol system. Time would pass differently inside. From outside, thousands of years would pass while only decades passed for humans. Maybe, given enough isolated time, humans would destroy themselves or become less dangerous. The quarantine had held for 3,000 years, until today. They did it again, Veltar said, looking up from the old records. They figured out how to break the barrier. These new humans are just as resourceful as their ancestors, or more resourceful, High Counselor Miradan replied. Her voice was grim. They broke out without even knowing they were trapped. What does that tell us about their technology now? It tells us, Velthar answered slowly, that we are in serious trouble. Dr. Helen Price worked frantically at her station on the Liberty. She was the chief science officer, 38 years old with sharp green eyes. She had 3 advanced degrees and was one of the smartest people on the ship. Right now, she was trying to understand the energy field that was holding their ship prisoner. Captain, this containment field is unlike anything I have studied before, she said. It is not just holding us in place. It is suppressing our quantum drive and blocking our long-range communications. Can you break it? Jake asked. Helen looked up at him. Maybe, but sir, breaking free might look like an act of war. They already think we are dangerous. We should try talking first, Jake nodded. She was right. Lisa, are they still willing to talk? Yes, sir. They are inviting us aboard their flagship for negotiations. They call it the Harmonious Dawn. That is either a good sign or a very ironic name, muttered Lieutenant Danny Walsh from the weapons station. Jake made his decision quickly. I will go. Helen, Amy, you come with me. Danny, you are in command. If we are not back in 6 hours or if they attack, break us free and get back to Earth. Sir, I do not want to leave you behind. Danny protested. That is an order, Lieutenant. Earth needs to know what is out here. The transport beam felt strange. One moment they stood in the shuttle bay of the Liberty. The next moment they appeared in a vast chamber on the alien ship. The walls seemed to shift and change colors. It hurt to look at them directly. 3 aliens waited for them. The pearl-skinned humanoid from the view screen stood in the center. To its left was a being that looked like floating tentacles wrapped around a glowing crystal core. To the right stood something made of living metal that kept changing shape. I am Arbiter Kelthorn, the humanoid said. These are Counselor Zix of the Netheran Collective and War Master Forge of the Centarian Legion. We represent the crisis response team of the Galactic Council. Jake stepped forward and extended his hand in greeting. Then he awkwardly lowered it when he realized the gesture might not translate. I am Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Helen Price and Lieutenant Amy Chen. We truly mean no harm. We are just exploring. Just exploring, Kelthorn repeated. For the first time, emotion colored its voice. It sounded almost like bitter laughter. That is what your ancestors said too, before they carved a path of chaos through half the galaxy. Helen spoke carefully. I am sorry, but our historical records show no previous contact with alien civilizations. When exactly did our ancestors meet you? The 3 aliens looked at each other in what might have been surprise. You do not know, Counselor Zix said. Its voice came from somewhere inside its tentacles. The quarantine was not just physical. It included time manipulation and information blocking. From your perspective, how long has it been since your species achieved space travel? We have had basic spaceflight for about 300 years, Amy answered. Interstellar capability for roughly 70 years. 3,000 years, War Master Forge rumbled. Its metal form became more solid and humanoid. From our perspective, 3,000 years have passed since we sealed your system. The time moved differently inside the barrier. We hoped your species would evolve and become less dangerous. Dangerous? Jake said. You keep saying that. What exactly did humans do that was so terrible? Arbiter Kelthorn gestured, and the space around them changed. Images appeared, showing historical records in 3 dimensions. The humans watched in shocked silence as their species' hidden history played out before them. They saw human ships, old but deadly, fighting against huge alien fleets. They saw human diplomats making treaties that seemed fair but had hidden tricks. They saw human scientists copying alien technology at impossible speeds. They saw human soldiers fighting with crazy bravery when defending their homes. But the most frightening parts were the psychological profiles that alien scientists had made about humans. Humans do not just fight to win, Kelthorn explained. Every species does that. Humans fight like they believe one defeat will end their entire species. You take things too far beyond all logic. You adapt faster than should be possible. And most terrifying of all, you inspire others. Wherever humans went, subject species started rebellions. Stable governments fell apart. Order turned to chaos. We were terrified, Counselor Zix added. Not because you had better weapons, but because you were unpredictable. How do you plan for an enemy that will crash explosive ships into your capital vessels? How do you negotiate with beings who would rather die than accept bad terms? How do you contain a species that treats the impossible as merely difficult? Helen's scientific mind was fascinated by the time mechanics of the quarantine, but her human side felt growing unease. So you trapped us, locked us away from the rest of the universe. It was that or genocide, War Master Forge stated bluntly, and we do not commit genocide easily. The quarantine was a compromise. We hoped time would change your species. Did it? Jake asked quietly. The 3 aliens were silent for a long moment. You tell us, Captain, Kelthorn finally said. Are you still the humans of old? If we deny you access to the galaxy, will you accept that decision peacefully, or will you fight, adapt, and break through anyway, just as you already broke the quarantine? Jake looked at Helen and Amy. He saw in their faces the same thing he felt. Humanity had evolved in many ways over the centuries. They had overcome much of their violence and tribal thinking. Earth was more unified than ever. But the core of what made humans human had not changed. That probably could not change. I want to say we are different now, Jake said honestly. And in many ways we are. We are more thoughtful and careful. But if you ask me whether modern humans would accept being caged and forbidden from exploring, no, we would not. We would find a way out just like we did before. That is what we feared, Kelthorn said softly. Back on the Liberty, Danny Walsh was making his own discoveries. While scanning the alien vessels, he detected something unusual. The ships surrounding them were not all military. At least a dozen were news vessels. Their broadcast signatures were clear once he knew what to look for. They are broadcasting everything, he muttered to himself. This is not just first contact. This is a public event, he was right. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings were watching the feed from the harmonious dawn. For species that had lived with the legend of the quarantined humans, this was a moment of historical importance. Would the humans be peaceful or violent? Would they need to be contained again or worse? On the council station, Ambassador Velthar watched the same feeds. He also monitored the military response. 43 battle fleets had been mobilized. They represented the combined military might of the major powers. They were holding position 3 light years away, waiting. If this goes wrong, he said to High Counselor Miradan, if the humans prove hostile, the Council has authorized extreme measures. You mean the Cascade Protocol? Miradan said heavily. Collapsing their star system into a pocket dimension. It would be murder on an unthinkable scale. It would be survival. Those humans on that ship are only 42 individuals. There are 8 billion more where they came from. If their technology has advanced as much as we fear, we might only have one chance to act. Let us hope it does not come to that, Miradan said quietly. She watched the screen where Captain Jake Morrison stood before the Council representatives, representing a species that had terrified the galaxy for thousands of years. A species that did not even know its own history. A species that might be about to doom itself or save itself with its next words. Dr. Helen Price could not hold back her scientific curiosity any longer. Arbiter Kelthorn, may I ask something? This barrier you created around our system is amazing engineering. The time changes alone would require technology we cannot even imagine. How did we break through it? Kelthorn's expression shifted to something that might have been respect mixed with concern. We do not know. That is part of why this situation is so alarming. The quarantine was designed to be unbreakable from inside. It would take a civilization millions of years ahead of where we left you to even detect the barrier, much less break it. Yet you broke it in a tiny fraction of that time, Counselor Zix added. Either your species has made a technological leap that defies probability, or you developed something we do not understand. Amy spoke up. What if it was an accident? Our quantum drive system uses some unusual mathematics. Maybe we stumbled through a weak point without realizing what we were doing. War Master Forge's metal form rippled. There were no weak points, Lieutenant. The barrier was perfect, which means you did not stumble through anything. You broke it. On the Liberty, engineer Pete Collins had not been sitting idle. He was a 30-year veteran of deep space missions. He had been quietly studying everything the ship's sensors could gather about the alien technology holding them. Danny, come look at this, he called from engineering. Danny hurried over. What do you have, Pete? Their containment field. I have been running pattern analysis on its energy signature. It is incredibly sophisticated, but there is something strange about it. See this fluctuation? He pointed to a display showing wave patterns. It happens every 17 seconds like clockwork. That is not random. That is a deliberate design feature. What does it mean? Pete grinned. It means it is a lock, not a cage. Locks can be picked if you know the pattern. Give me an hour and I think I can phase our quantum drive to slip through when the field cycles. The captain said not to try anything unless they attack us. I am not trying anything. I am preparing options. There is a difference. Back on the Harmonious Dawn, the discussion had become more philosophical. Let me understand your position, Jake said carefully. You are afraid of us because our ancestors were too good at survival. But surely over 3,000 years you have encountered other dangerous species? None like you, Kelthorn responded. Let me give you an example. 80 cycles ago, the Krell Dominion tried to expand into council space. They were a warrior culture, very aggressive, with technology equal to ours. Do you know how the conflict ended? Jake shook his head. We fought 3 major battles. We lost 2 of them badly. Then we negotiated. The Krell wanted territory and resources, so we gave them uninhabited systems and trading rights. Peace was achieved in less than 2 standard years. That sounds like successful diplomacy, Helen observed. Now let me tell you about your ancestors. Kelthorn continued. The Velkarn Empire first contacted Earth with similar intentions. They claimed your system and its resources. But humans could not be bought off with other systems. You wanted your home unconditionally. When the Velkarn refused to leave, humans did not negotiate. You studied them, learned from them, and then you systematically destroyed their empire over 3 decades. That sounds like self-defense, Amy protested. Perhaps at first, Counselor Zix said. But it did not stop there. After the Velkarn fell, 17 other species tried various approaches with humanity. Some offered alliance, some offered trade, some tried shows of force. All failed. Because humans did not want a place in the galactic community. You wanted freedom without restriction. When anyone tried to impose any limits on human expansion, you saw it as a threat to your existence and responded accordingly. War Master Forge added, we tried everything. Economic rewards, cultural exchange programs, defense agreements, even offering humans leadership positions in the council. Nothing worked because the basic issue was that humans refused to accept that anyone else had authority over human destiny. Jake felt anger rising, but forced himself to stay calm. Is that so wrong? Every species should have the right to determine their own future. In principle, yes, Kelthorn agreed. But Captain, let me ask you something. If I told you right now that the Galactic Council has rules about which systems can be colonized, which technologies can be researched, and how conflicts between species must be resolved, would humanity follow those rules? Jake opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. The honest answer was clearly visible on his face. That is what we thought, Kelthorn said sadly. You are already thinking about how to work around any restrictions we might impose, are you not? It is human nature to question authority, Helen said. But we have learned to work together on Earth. We have global laws and institutions that individual nations follow more or less. Because you are all human, Counselor Zix pointed out. You share common biology, common evolutionary pressures, common psychology. The Galactic Council represents thousands of species with very different values and needs. The laws that bind us together require compromise. Sometimes we must accept decisions that individual species disagree with. Can humans do that? The question hung in the air like a weight. Amy surprised everyone by laughing softly. You are asking if humans can be good galactic citizens. The answer is probably no, at least not by your definition. But maybe the real question is whether the galaxy is willing to accept imperfect citizens. Explain, War Master Forge commanded. Look at your own history with us. Yes, our ancestors were chaotic and difficult. But did they ever commit genocide? Did they enslave other species? Or did they just refuse to be controlled? They destabilized our entire civilization structure, Kelthorn said. Maybe it needed destabilizing, Amy replied boldly. You talk about the Velkarn Empire like it was legitimate, but they wanted to claim our entire solar system, our home. What gave them that right? The fact that they had bigger ships? From where I sit, humans did not destabilize civilization. We challenged imperialism. A tense silence followed her words. Finally, Counselor Zix spoke thoughtfully. An interesting perspective. But it does not change the practical reality. If we allow humans full access to the galaxy, history suggests chaos will follow. And if you try to cage us again, Jake asked quietly, what then? We have prepared for that possibility, War Master Forge said. We have 43 battle fleets on standby. If necessary, we can implement the Cascade Protocol and remove your species from normal space entirely. Helen's eyes widened. You are talking about destroying our entire star system. We are talking about protecting 8 trillion beings across the galaxy, Kelthorn corrected. It is a terrible choice, but we will make it if we must. Jake felt cold inside. This was not really a negotiation. It was a trial, and humanity had already been found guilty once before. So what happens now? He asked. Now, Kelthorn said, we give you a test. The space around them shimmered. A new image appeared showing a star system full of life. Planets orbited a yellow sun. Several clearly had civilizations based on the artificial structures visible from space. This is the Talvan system, Arbiter Kelthorn explained. Home to the Talvan people, a peaceful civilization of roughly 4 billion beings. They are artists, philosophers, scientists. By galactic law, their system is protected. The image zoomed closer, showing beautiful crystal cities on one planet. The Talvan themselves appeared. They were bipedal beings with see-through skin that split light into rainbow patterns. They are beautiful, Helen whispered. They are also completely defenseless. War Master Forge added grimly. The Talvan evolved without predators. They have no concept of violence or war. We have protected them for 3,000 years. Another image appeared showing a different ship. It was clearly human in design, though more advanced than the Liberty. Jake recognized it as a colony vessel. 6 months ago, one of your colony ships identified a habitable planet in the Talvan system. Your people do not know about the inhabitants because the Talvan do not use radio. They use quantum telepathy that your sensors cannot detect. Jake felt his stomach drop. You are saying we are about to colonize an inhabited world? By accident, yes, Counselor Zix confirmed. The ship will arrive in 48 hours. They will begin landing on Talvan Prime, believing it is empty. We have to warn them, Amy said immediately. That is the test, Kelthorn said softly. Arbiter Kelthorn continued explaining the test. We will release the Liberty right now. You can either race back to your system, gather reinforcements, and try to protect your colonial interests in Talvan space, or you can race to the Talvan system and stop your own people from accidentally colonizing an inhabited world. Helen's scientific mind immediately saw the problem. You are 2 light years from the Talvan system. Our quantum drive can get us there in 30 hours if we push it hard. But Earth is 6 light years away. Even if we send a message, it would take time to reach the colony ship. We cannot do both. Exactly, War Master Forge said. Choose. Do you protect your own people's interests, or do you protect innocent aliens from your own people's mistakes? Jake felt anger rising inside him. This is manipulation. You are forcing an impossible choice to prove we are monsters. No, Kelthorn said, and something in his tone made Jake pause. We are giving you the same choice we face every day in the Galactic Council. Sometimes there are no good options, only less terrible ones. Sometimes protecting one species means disappointing another. We want to see if humans can make these choices. If you can think beyond your own immediate interests. There is more, Counselor Zix added. The colony ship carries 15,000 people, including 3,000 children. They have been in sleep chambers for 2 years, dreaming of their new home. If you stop them from landing on Talvin Prime, where will they go? Their ship does not have resources to return to Earth or search for another world. You would be stranding them in space. So either we doom our own people or we destroy an innocent civilization, Amy said bitterly. Some test. Welcome to galactic citizenship, Kelthorne replied. These are the problems we face constantly. Now you must face one too. Jake looked at his crew. Helen's face was tight with stress. Her fingers drummed on her leg as she thought hard. Amy's jaw was set. Anger and determination fought in her eyes. Can we discuss this privately? Jake asked. The 3 aliens nodded and stepped back. A shimmering field appeared around the humans, giving them privacy. This is insane, Amy said immediately. They are testing us, but the test is rigged. No matter what we choose, they can point to it as proof that humans are either selfish or incompetent. Maybe, Helen said thoughtfully, but maybe that is not the point. They are not testing whether we can find a perfect solution. They are testing whether we will even try. Jake nodded slowly. Helen is right. They are watching to see if we just react with pure self-interest or if we consider the bigger picture. But that does not solve our problem. We still have to make a choice. What if we split up? Amy suggested. You and Helen take a shuttle to the Talvin system while I take the Liberty back to Earth to get help. Helen shook her head. Even if they allowed that, which I doubt, it does not solve the core problem. The colony ship will start landing before any help could arrive. This is happening in the next 2 days, not next week. Jake turned away, staring at the alien ship visible through the transparent wall. His mind raced through options, throwing away each one as quickly as it formed. Then an idea hit him, so simple and obvious that he almost laughed. We do not choose, he said suddenly. Helen and Amy looked at him in confusion. Explain, Amy said. The test assumes we have to pick one option or the other. But what if there is a third way? What if we can protect both the Talvin and our colonists? How? Helen asked. Jake's mind was racing now. The pieces were falling into place. The colony ship thinks Talvin Prime is empty, right? So what if we tell them the truth, explain about the Talvin, and then work with them to find a solution? There are other planets in the system. Maybe one of those is habitable. Or maybe the Talvin would be willing to share their world if we ask properly instead of just taking. Amy's eyes widened. You want to try diplomacy? With both sides, why not? Is that not what the Galactic Council supposedly stands for? Finding solutions that work for everyone? Helen was nodding, excitement building in her voice. It could work. If we can get to the Talvin system first, we can make contact with the Talvin, explain the situation, and then mediate when the colony ship arrives. It is risky, Amy cautioned. The Talvin might panic when they see the colony ship. Our colonists might not accept being told they cannot land where they planned, and we would be betting everything on our ability to negotiate a solution in less than 2 days. But it is the right choice, Jake said firmly. It is the human choice. We do not give up on our people, but we do not destroy innocent aliens either. We find a third option, he raised his voice. Arbiter Kelthorne, we have made our decision. The privacy field dissolved. The 3 aliens returned. We are going to the Talvin system, Jake announced, but not to stop our colonists or abandon them. We are going to attempt first contact with the Talvin and try to mediate a peaceful solution that protects everyone involved. The 3 aliens were silent for a long moment. Jake could not read their expressions. Finally, Kelthorne spoke. You understand this is the most difficult option? You have no idea if the Talvin will even communicate with you, or if your colonists will accept your authority. You could fail to protect both groups. Yes, Jake said simply. But we have to try. That is what it means to be human. We do not accept impossible choices as final. We make new possibilities. Something shifted in Kelthorne's expression. And if you fail? If the Talvin are harmed because of your choice? Jake met the alien's eye steadily. Then we will live with that failure, learn from it, and do better next time. But we will not fail because we did not try. Counselor Zix's tentacles moved in what might have been approval or concern. This was not one of the expected responses. Good, Amy said with a slight smile. If we were predictable, you would not be so worried about us. War Master Forge's metal form rippled. 73% probability of mission failure. 14% probability of hostile engagement with your own colonists. 8% probability of accidental conflict with the Talven. And 5% probability of success, Helen added, reading the implied numbers. We will take those odds. Why? Kelthorne asked genuinely. Why risk so much on such poor odds? Jake smiled. Because if there is a 5% chance of everyone surviving this, that is better than a 100% chance of someone dying. That is worth fighting for. For the first time since they had met, Arbiter Kelthorne smiled. It was a genuinely human expression on his alien face. Perhaps you are different from your ancestors after all. Or perhaps this is exactly what they would have done, and we simply never gave them the chance to prove it. The Liberty raced through space at speeds that pushed its quantum drive to the limit. Jake sat in his command chair watching the countdown timer. 26 hours until they reached the Talven system. 28 hours until the colony ship arrived. They had a 2-hour window to make first contact, establish communication, explain the situation, and somehow convince a species that had never known violence that 15,000 humans meant them no harm. Captain, I have been analyzing the data the Council provided on Talven biology and culture, Helen reported. Their quantum telepathy is fascinating. It works on principles similar to our quantum drive, which means we might be able to communicate if we modify our systems. How long would that take? Jake asked. In normal circumstances, weeks. But Pete thinks he can create something in about 12 hours if I give him the theory. Do it. Amy, start preparing a first contact package. Everything we know about human history, culture, our intentions. Make it clear we are not invaders. Should we mention our violent past? Amy asked carefully. The Council made it sound pretty bad. Jake thought about that. Yes, be honest. If we are asking them to trust us, we cannot start by hiding who we are. Danny approached from his station. Captain, the Council ships are following us. Not aggressively, but they are definitely watching our movements. They want to see what happens, Jake said. Cannot blame them. We are either about to prove humans can be trusted or confirm their worst fears. What Jake did not know was that they were not the only ones watching. The broadcast of humanity's test had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Trillions of beings were following the Liberty's race to the Talven system. Betting pools had formed on various worlds. People were calculating odds every hour about whether the humans would succeed or fail. On the Council station, Ambassador Velthar was having a strange experience. They chose the impossible option, he said to High Counselor Miradan. They chose the human option, Miradan corrected. I have been reviewing the historical records more carefully. Do you know how the first human conflict with the Velkarn Empire really ended? They destroyed it, I thought. That is what the records say, but I found something in the classified archives. In the final year of the war, a human diplomat proposed a peace plan. It would have given humans control of the Sol system, while making them equal partners in the Empire. The Velkarn Emperor rejected it because it did not include human submission. Velthar's eyes widened. So humans offered peace? Multiple times, apparently. The problem was not that humans were warlike. It was that they refused to be subordinate. Every conflict in their history followed the same pattern. Humans fought until their opponents were willing to treat them as equals. Then they offered peace. So the quarantine was a mistake? Miradan's energy form flickered with uncertainty. Maybe. Or maybe it was necessary for the galaxy to mature to the point where we could accept a species that demands equality, rather than accepting hierarchy. Look at the Council now versus 3,000 years ago. We have evolved too. 21 hours into their journey, Pete completed his modification to the communication systems. Helen immediately began trying to make contact with the Talven homeworld. For 3 difficult hours, nothing happened. Then, as they crossed into the Talven star system, the ship's quantum field began to vibrate in patterns that Helen's instruments barely detected. Captain, I think they are responding, she called out excitedly. It is not language exactly. More like impressions, emotions, concepts. Jake leaned forward. Can you translate? I am trying. It is beautiful, Captain. They are expressing curiosity and wonder. They have detected our presence and they are welcoming us. Amy worked quickly to create a response. She encoded human concepts of peace and friendship into quantum patterns that the Talven might understand. The response came faster this time. Helen's eyes filled with tears as she interpreted it. They want to meet us. They are inviting us to their world. Tell them yes, Jake ordered, but also tell them we need to warn them about something. The next hours were the most intense diplomatic effort Jake had ever experienced. Through Helen's improvised translation system, they explained to the Talvin about the approaching colony ship. They shared human history, including the violent parts. They explained the misunderstanding and asked for help finding a solution. The Talvin response was unexpected. Rather than fear or anger, they expressed sadness that beings could live without connection to others, without the constant presence of community through telepathy. Humans seemed lonely to them, isolated in individual minds, but they also expressed something that Helen translated as determination. If these isolated human beings needed a home, and if the humans were willing to learn peaceful coexistence, the Talvin would help. When the colony ship emerged from quantum space, expecting to begin landing on an empty world, they were met instead by the Liberty and a message from Captain Jake Morrison. New Horizon, this is Captain Morrison of the Liberty. Hold your position. The world you plan to colonize is inhabited, but do not panic. We have a solution. The response from the colony ship's captain, a woman named Linda Foster, was predictably shocked and angry. Captain Morrison, we have traveled 2 years to reach this world. Our colonists are counting on us. We cannot just turn around. I am not asking you to turn around, Jake replied calmly. I am asking you to trust me for 48 hours. I have made contact with the inhabitants, the Talvin. They are willing to meet with us and discuss options. Options? What options? The Talvin have 3 worlds in their system suitable for human life. One is their home world, but the other 2 are barely populated. They are offering one of those worlds to your colonists along with help in establishing your colony. All they ask in return is that you teach them about human culture and help establish an exchange program between our species. The silence from the New Horizon lasted so long that Jake worried the communication had failed. Finally, Linda Foster spoke again. Her voice was thick with emotion. They are willing to share their system with us? Just like that? They are willing to welcome us, Jake corrected. But Captain Foster, if we accept, we have to mean it. This cannot be temporary until we are strong enough to take what we want. This has to be genuine coexistence. I understand, Captain. My people, we are farmers, teachers, engineers. We are not soldiers. We just wanted a new home. If the Talvin are offering that in peace, then in peace is how we will accept it. The first joint human-Talvin settlement was established 3 weeks later. The colony world, which humans named New Hope and the Talvin called Talvera, became something unique in galactic history. It was a truly integrated society where 2 species learned to live together as equals. The Talvin taught humans their quantum communication. For the first time, humans experienced true telepathic connection. Humans taught the Talvin concepts of individual privacy and personal space. These ideas were foreign but interesting to the telepathic species. It was not perfect. There were misunderstandings and cultural clashes. There were moments of frustration on both sides. But both species worked through each problem with patience and determination. 6 months after the Liberty's arrival in the Talvin system, Jake Morrison was summoned back to the Harmonious Dawn for a final meeting with the Galactic Council. This time, when he appeared on the alien flagship, he was met by dozens of representatives from across the galaxy. The chamber was packed. Jake realized this was going to be more formal than their first meeting. Arbiter Kelthorn stood at the center, but he was not alone. High Counselor Miradan herself was present, along with what appeared to be the entire leadership of the Galactic Council. Captain Morrison, Miradan began. Her voice echoed through the chamber. You and your crew have completed your test, though not in any way we anticipated. We did not intend to take a test at all, Jake replied honestly. We were just exploring. And in that exploration, you stumbled upon a crisis. You could have chosen the easy path, putting your own people first without regard for others. Instead, you chose the difficult path of trying to protect everyone. More remarkably, you succeeded. Kelthorn stepped forward. Captain, the Talvin have petitioned the Council for Humanity to be granted provisional membership in the galactic community. They argue that any species capable of the compassion and creativity you demonstrated deserves a place among the stars. Jake felt his heart race. What did the Council decide? We are still deciding, Miradan said. The concerns about humanity's past remain valid, but we are willing to acknowledge that you have demonstrated something we did not expect. which is growth. Whether that growth is genuine and lasting remains to be seen. So we are still on trial, Jake said. No, Kelthorne corrected. The trial is over. You passed. Now comes the harder part, which is proving you can sustain what you have started. The quarantine will be formally lifted. Human ships will be free to explore the galaxy. But know this, Captain Morrison, the galaxy will be watching. Every action your species takes will be examined. We understand, Jake said. We are not perfect. We will make mistakes, but we will learn from them. That is what humans do. Ambassador Velthar spoke up from the crowd. There is something else you should know, Captain. Since the broadcast of your test, 17 other species have applied for similar programs with isolated species in their regions. You have inspired others to try diplomacy instead of quarantine. You have started something, Miradan added. A shift in how the galaxy thinks about difficult species. Perhaps the isolation we imposed on humanity isolated us as well, from possibilities we could not imagine. Jake felt overwhelmed but also strangely hopeful. So what happens now? Now, Kelthorne said with a definite smile, you go home. Tell your people about the galaxy. Prepare them for first contact on a larger scale, and try not to terrify too many civilizations in the process. We will do our best, Jake promised, though I cannot guarantee the not terrifying part. We are still human after all. We are counting on it, Miradan said mysteriously. The galaxy needs a little healthy fear sometimes. It keeps us from becoming too comfortable. 3 months later, Jake stood on the balcony of the United Earth Government building, looking up at the night sky. Up there, human ships were beginning to explore the galaxy in earnest. The colony at New Hope had inspired 5 more colony expeditions, all following the model of cooperation rather than conquest. Helen joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thinking about what comes next? Always, Jake admitted. We have been given an incredible opportunity, but also an incredible responsibility. The whole galaxy is watching to see if we are the monsters from history or something better.